Hello and welcome back to another episode of Watching Washington. Today is Friday, March 27th. I'm Julia Moran and these are the stories trending this week. Tensions between the United States and Iran continue to escalate as both sides send mixed signals about peace talks. Iran's foreign minister says there are no active negotiations with the United States, despite claims from Washington that talks are moving forward. He says the U.S. sends messages through other countries, but calls it a, quote, exchange of positions instead of a real dialogue. At the same time, the White House says those conversations are ongoing and productive. This comes as the U.S. military continues its campaign in Iran, targeting missile sites, naval forces, and defense systems. Officials say attacks from Iran have dropped significantly and that the operation is already close to its main goals.
Military operations in Iran. The United States military continues to decimate the terrorist Iranian regime's offensive and defensive capabilities. Just over 3 weeks in, it's abundantly clear that Operation Epic Fury has been a resounding military triumph. More than 9,000 enemy targets have been struck to date. Compared to the start of the operation, Iran's ballistic missile attacks and drone attacks are down by roughly 90%. The United States is also annihilating the Iranian regime's navy. We have destroyed more than 140 of their naval vessels, including almost 50 mine layers. This is the largest elimination of a navy over a 3-week period since World War II. Again, let me reiterate, this is the largest elimination of a navy on the face of the planet in a 3-week period since World War II. We are systematically dismantling Iran's defense industrial base, which will prevent future threats to the region. Our military also remains laser focused on eliminating the regime's threat to the free flow of energy through the Strait of Hormuz. Over the weekend, we dropped several 5,000-pound bombs on an underground facility used to store equipment, including anti-ship cruise missiles and mobile missile launchers positioned along the coastline of the strait. Our military efforts grow more successful with each passing day, steadily degrading Iran's ability to terrorize merchant ships. For all of these reasons, we are very close to meeting the core objectives of Operation Epic Fury, and this military mission continues unabated. From the outset, President Trump and the Department of War estimated it would take approximately 4 to 6 weeks to achieve this critical mission. 25 days in, the greatest military the world has ever known is ahead of schedule and performing exceptionally. Day by day, the Iranian regime is being crippled, and their ability to threaten the United States and our allies is being significantly weakened. Their ambitions of building a nuclear weapon have also been crushed to an even greater degree than they were in Operation Midnight Hammer in June 2025. That's why you're beginning to see the regime look for an exit ramp. They recognize they are being crushed, their ability to attack American and allied forces, as well as their ability to defend their own territory is dwindling literally hour by hour. Following President Trump's powerful threat on Saturday evening, it was made clear to the United States that Iran wanted to talk. President Trump is willing to listen. As President Trump announced on Monday, the United States has been engaged over the last 3 days in productive conversations, which led the president to temporarily instruct the Department of War to postpone planned strikes against Iranian power plants and energy infrastructure only. The remaining elements of the Iranian regime have another opportunity to cooperate with President Trump, permanently abandon their nuclear ambitions, and cease actively threatening America and our allies. But the president's preference is always peace. There does not need to be any more death and destruction. But if Iran fails to accept the reality of the current moment, if they fail to understand that they have been defeated militarily and will continue to be, President Trump will ensure they are hit harder than they have ever been hit before. President Trump does not bluff, and he is prepared to unleash hell. Iran should not miscalculate again. Their last miscalculation cost them their senior leadership, their Navy, their Air Force, and their air defense system. Any violence beyond this point will be because the Iranian regime refused to understand they have already been defeated and refused to come to a deal.
Officials say the next few days could be critical as diplomatic efforts continue alongside military action. As the Iran war continues, gas prices continue to climb for the United States. As we enter almost a month into the Iran war, gas prices show no sign of decreasing. According to the AAA website, gas prices have gone up more than 50 cents per gallon on average nationwide. although in some states like Florida, gas prices are starting to become steady. In Indiana, the gas prices are almost at $4 average, according to WDRB. Gas prices haven't seen this much of a rise since 2022, and drivers shouldn't expect lower prices anytime soon. They also state it could take months to see any changes, and even then, may still be at a higher price than before the war. Looking abroad, Tehran officials say Iran is preparing legislation to impose tolls on ships passing through the Strait of Hormuz. Traffic in this critical oil shipping route has effectively come to a standstill since the beginning of the war in Iran. Attacks on energy facilities and other supply constraints pushed oil prices into triple digits. Lawmakers said Iran will collect tolls in exchange for secure passage through the strait. Multiple unconfirmed reports across the past 5 weeks state Iran has already been charging sums to bypass traffic in the waterway. Senior research scholars at Columbia University's Center on Global Energy Policy claim it is very clear Iran would not be able to operate a toll booth through the strait. Surrounding states like Saudi Arabia, Oman, and the UAE will not tolerate or accept this. We'll continue to keep you updated on the status of this vital passage. Looking back in the States, an Air Canada regional flight left 43 injured and 2 dead after a crash Saturday night. Port Authority reports the plane collided with an emergency fire truck on a LaGuardia Airport runway. Among the injured were passengers and flight attendants. Most were released from the hospital shortly. Those killed were the pilots, Antoine Forrest and Mackenzie Gunther. Passengers recalled the chaos and immediate injuries after the collision, saying this.
All of a sudden, boom, woke up in shock, just didn't know what to do. Just heard a loud bang, and then everyone's like freaking out, not knowing what to do. Honestly, like people worked together well to get us off the plane.
We were a couple rows behind first class, and everything at the front of the plane was pretty messed up. One of our friends was several rows back from us, and like we walked past him on the way out because he was trying to find his glasses, and his nose was totally broken, bleeding like on his face. Like a lot of people smacked their head against the seat in front of them.
LaGuardia Airport closed shortly and reopened to clean the debris from the crash. An investigation is ongoing as the National Transportation Safety Board looks into the accident. The Federal Aviation Administration and Canada's Transportation Safety Board will join the investigation. NTSB Chairwoman Jennifer Homendy remarked on the struggle for officials to meet given the DHS shutdown and long TSA lines.
We had a ground stop at Newark today, and then we have DHS that shut down, and we have long TSA lines. We have our air traffic control specialist who was in line with TSA for 3 hours until we called in Houston to beg to see if we can get her through so we can get her here. So it's been a really big challenge to get the entire team here, and they're still arriving as I speak. Right up until about, I think the latest I saw was midnight, maybe 1 a.m. tomorrow morning. So it is a long travel day for many of those, and many are arriving by sure plane. We have had many that have come here by train, and certainly automobile. We drove up. A number of us.
These TSA wait times are a result of the ongoing partial government shutdown of the DHS. It's gone on for over 40 days, heavily impacting airport travel. TSA agents are labeled as essential workers, meaning they're required to work without pay during this stalemate. The DHS said on Monday that around 11% of TSA officers nationally, a number nearing 3,500 employees, did not show up for work, with some of the callouts being worse in larger areas. For example, more than 30% of TSA workers were absent at the New York JFK, Baltimore, Houston, Atlanta, and New Orleans airports. Some security checkpoints are experiencing wait times longer than 4.5 hours, raising the risk of missing flights. If you're planning on traveling in the near future, be sure to check and see how your airport might be impacted, and remember to show up early. To address the staffing shortage at airports, the Trump administration deployed ICE officers to aid in resolving flight delays. ICE has deployed agents to more than a dozen airports across the country. This is in an effort to ease staffing shortages and long security lines caused by TSA officers working without pay. Officials stated that ICE agents will primarily perform support duties, such as guiding passengers and assisting with daily operations, but they will not conduct security screenings. This deployment aims to ease the pressure on busy airports. Meanwhile, lawmakers in Washington continue to negotiate an end to the government shutdown. The partial shutdown of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security continues. As we mentioned in our previous report, this affects air travel across the country. Meanwhile, lawmakers in Washington are working to pass a funding agreement. Negotiations are ongoing, but no final agreement is reached. Republican Senator Bill Cassidy spoke about the impact of the government shutdown and the progress of the negotiations.
They feel like they can hold a hostage and get more gain. And it doesn't matter that people are suffering in our country or theirs. They keep moving the goalpost. It sounds a lot like they feel like they've got a good Strait of Hormuz. They can choke point travel, this time for the American people, to achieve their political goals. That's tragic.
However, Democrats have voiced a different view. They believe the real barrier comes from President Donald Trump and his demands in the negotiations.
It's preposterous because the chaos at our airports is simply unacceptable. Still, Democrats are going to keep working in good faith. Donald Trump, meanwhile, is trying to sabotage negotiations, demanding that talks stop entirely until Congress passes the SAVE Act, a bill that has nothing to do with paying TSA workers and nothing to do with ending the shutdown. That's right. Donald Trump is now saying we'll pay TSA only after Congress passes voter suppression. What a ridiculous thing to do. What a callous thing to do. He doesn't give a damn about the American people. He cares about his own election. He thinks this SAVE Act, which isn't going to pass, will change how the election comes out, and he uses millions and millions of Americans as hostages. How can our Republican friends on the other side of the aisle go along with this? It stinks on its face. You don't need any deeper explanation. Let's make it very clear. Donald Trump is the one standing in the way of paychecks for TSA workers.
As of Friday morning, the Associated Press reported the Senate approved a bill to fund most of the DHS. With bipartisan support, this bill moves to fund the department through the fiscal year. They now wait for approval from the House. Up next, college grads are having trouble with the job market. Updates on special elections and the return of Savannah Guthrie. Stay with us. More Watching Washington next.
Being involved in the 3-year program at Purdue made it easier to say to myself I could get done in 3 years. The 3-year program helped save me a ton of money. Not completing my 4th year, I would save around $30,000. It will give you an advantage, if anything. Doing the 3-year program at Purdue has shown me that I have motivation to do whatever it takes to get my degree.
Hi there, my name is Vikram Jaithlak, and I'm the founder and president of the Purdue chapter of the University Blood Initiative. Over the past 2 years, we've been able to collect over 300 pints of blood to be donated to local hospitals, and you can be the next one to help out.
I donate my blood at the University Blood Initiative.
Hi, I just donated blood through the University Blood Initiative.
Hi, I just donated blood through the University Blood Initiative at Purdue.
Right, I donated my blood through the University Blood Initiative at Purdue.
And I donated my blood at University Blood Initiative at Purdue.
Are you looking for a new hobby?
Or you want to have a fun evening with your friends?
Then come climb to new heights at the Correct Climbing Wall.
Football. It's the best time of the year. You know what else is great? The world's largest and fastest mascot. You can't have Purdue football without the trains. Look for the Reamer Club outside Stewart Center, 12 to 5 p.m. on Fridays before home football games, for your chance to ride the Boilermaker Special for free. See you then!
You're watching Fast Track News.
A recent New York Times article by Sydney Ember claims recent college graduates are facing the toughest job market in years. Using data from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, the current unemployment rate is at its worst since the pandemic. The unemployment rate rose from 4.2% in 2024 to 5.6% in 2025. The Times interviewed various college administrators, calling the current job market, quote, low hire, low fire. As companies continue to implement artificial intelligence into their workplaces and applicants with bachelor's degrees become more common, entry-level job availability for recent graduates remains unclear. Now for election update news. In the recent Florida election, Democrat Emily Gregory beats John Maples for a state House seat. Florida's special election held on March 24th led to the surprising result in the red state, with Democrat Emily Gregory taking the win over Republican John Maples in President Trump's residence, Mar-a-Lago's district. Gregory received 51.2% of the votes, whereas Maples had 48.8%, according to The Hill. Controversy broke out in the state due to Trump voting by mail, which he is openly against. According to the Associated Press, the White House stated that mail-in voting is acceptable for illness, disability, military leave, and travel, but should not be available due to the risk of fraud. After the election results, Gregory spoke about her winning. Here's her response.
Since President Trump's term started, the Democrats have flipped more than 20 legislative seats. You're just adding to that. How does that feel?
I think it's a real reaction to the current policies at the national and state level. And I think that is a clear indication from voters it's the wrong track. And go ahead, legislatures, go ahead, representatives, focus on property insurance, healthcare, education, focus on the things that Floridians care about.
Looking in another state election, a recount is now complete for a March 3rd primary election in North Carolina. Only 2 votes initially separated the 2 Republicans vying for the state Senate seat. According to the State Board of Elections website, there is now a gap of just 23 votes. According to Politico, President Trump endorsed Republican Senate President Pro Tem Phil Berger for the Greensboro area seat. But it was his opponent, fellow Republican and Rockingham County Sheriff Sam Page, who was officially named the winner. Berger issued a statement congratulating Sheriff Page, saying, quote, "The voters have spoken." Berger has held the seat since 2011. WTVD in Raleigh reported that Berger angered some Republicans when he backed, then later withdrew, a proposal to build a casino in his district. In other news, Savannah Guthrie is returning to the Today Show, but this time she's the one being interviewed. A conversation between Guthrie and her co-anchor Hoda Kotb is set to air Thursday and Friday. It will be her first public interview since her mother was reported missing earlier this year. Guthrie traveled to Arizona after the incident was reported in February and has been away from the show since. She recently visited the Today Show off camera and, according to reports, could return to her anchor role as soon as next month. NBC has not officially confirmed a return date. More details are expected as her interview airs later this week.